Bodette here. Thought I'd give you a very immature lesson on how to get a deer all processed up. A little step by step, might be a little rusty, but I'm gonna give you the best I know. Now look, anybody can do this. I am an amateur. I repeat, I really don't know what I'm doing, but I can get the meat in the freezer. So I'm happy enough with my skills that I just keep doing it. This is Bodette. Let's process a deer. First thing we got to do here is we're going to have to cut up all the way around here and cut all the way around the ankle. And then we'll be able to peel that hair down, that hide. A couple things that can make it easier just to start is we can cut the legs off right at the, what I would call the knees, and cut the head off. Now it ain't the prettiest thing to watch or do, but I just take a good old handsaw, get it right down there, and just start pulling it down. Mine's not working right now. These knives here with the interchangeable blades seem to work really good. You can just take that out. They're like surgical sharp, honestly. Sometimes it's not great to have them surgical sharp, but whatever. All right, so if you look right here, right up the back of that leg, I'm gonna take that fur and cut it. And then we'll do that on both sides, go around the ankles. Don't cut the Achilles tendon on these things, at least that's what I call it, this tendon right here. It ain't gonna hang very well if you do that. Let's see how she goes. All right, so this part gets a little crazy because honestly, it's really hard not to get hair onto the actual meat. Like you're bound to get some on it, but don't worry too much about that because essentially we'll get it off. There's one way we'll do it. But I just start pulling down on the hide as hard as I can. It starts coming down. It works. Now, what you're gonna notice happening is right here on the back end, at the tail, the tail's gonna get kind of caught up. So I just pull the hide down pretty far like this. If you got a sharp enough knife, you can take it and kind of cut the tail like that. I don't know if this is your preferred method, but typically I just get a Burns-O-Matic here. Get a nice blue flame. You don't want any orange flame. And then I take this and I burn the hair. Now you might say, well, yeah, but the hair is still there. But what I'll do is some of this that's really hairy in the deer's crotch, I'll actually cut that skin, a thin layer off, which will take the burnt hair with it. But this literally makes the hair almost like vanish. You can almost feel it popping and cracking and whatever. Anyway, I'll go around the whole deer, up its legs, around its hindquarters, all this stuff. And I'll just burn all the little hairs. But you can probably see that there's this blood clottage that happened. Here's the, gotta see which way the deer's standing. So this is the entrance wound. Exit wound was a little further back because it was turning towards me. Nasty stuff off the top. And you can see there's white stuff on the meat up here. Once I get all the meat off the deer, I'll actually trim and take time to get all that white stuff off the meat. The biggest thing I want to do right now is get the meat off the deer. Typically how I like to start with that is, getting the front shoulders off. And let's see, this one's kind of nasty just because all this stuff. So I'm gonna actually try and saw some of this gross stuff off the top first. The next important thing is I try and get these back straps out. And I may have been a little overzealous here, and I whoopsie, got a little crazy. Usually I'm not that crazy. But right up here, you can see where the butt kind of flattens out into the back. Right up in here are the tops of its hips. And what I like to do is try and find under this fat where all that starts. So I try and trim this off, and it's usually not too big.
Too much, she's got a lot of fat on her, which is good. I mean, feel like it means she's eating well and is healthy. So that's good. So kind of get that fat off best I can without getting. Top of like a bone up there. If you're too low, it'll be too easy and you're cutting into the back strap already. So I kind of run my finger in there to separate the tissue.
One thing I do as well is I take my knife and I'll run it right down the spine. Now, this particular part, I think you can really mess it up. So you gotta be careful. But I wanna find that spinal cord and I wanna run that right down the edge of it. See, where are we at? Right here. Find it with my finger. There we go. Get on the edge of that spinal cord and I just run my knife up it. Now I've kind of got the top of this thing. Run my finger in there, separate some of the connective tissue. Sometimes if they're really tender, they'll pull right out of there, but I've never been like that lucky. And kind of go right along the ribs. Press hard against the ribs and go behind, and this back strap will just start falling out. Go in where I cut along the spine, flat against the ribs. Go in where I cut along the spine, flat against the ribs. Go in, flat against the ribs. And now I'm to the point where I'm down, getting close to the neck, starting to get really thin. And you can really keep going as long as you want, but I'm gonna cut it right there. And we have a nice long back strap. Doesn't have any back straps and doesn't have any arms. But as I'm looking around, I just start, honestly, looking for good meat. There's a big old hunk of fat right here. I mean, holy cow. Anyway, so this is some good meat here. That was behind the shoulder kinda. And I'm gonna cut some of the nasties away from it. I'm gonna cut it out. And I'll trim it up later and make it look pretty. But there's some nastily bubbly stuff on there. You know, but I'll cut this out. Or sorry, I'll put it in my tray. I'll trim that up later. And then we'll get to the big haunches. Now this junky stuff in here that was exposed to the air, what I do, I just cut that stuff right off. Just like I'm kind of like filleting a fish. I get my knife under it. And this is kind of why I like the fillet knife too. I'll get my knife under that dry, crusty skin, run it up under there, cut it right off, fillet it down, and get rid of it. A lot of that, where a lot of the fur was, is gone now. So like when I was burning it and you're like, oh bro, there's like melted fur on your deer. Well, a lot of that's coming off as we speak. And this is the time I also like to take a lot of the white stuff off of this. So, you know, I can get up under here, can get my blade under there, shove it up, cut this white stuff off, start kind of just peeling it back. My blade, and come right up under here and kick some of this fat away first. Oh, she's a fatty. I like to come right up under here and I'll take my knife and I'll go right up and I get as high as I can and I just kind of feel where the bone is and then I follow the bone. And what ends up happening is I get a nice big hunk of meat. I'll go toss that in my tray. And I kind of just do the same thing. Now, again, I'm not looking to get enormous steaks off this thing. Because I'm going to make it primarily into burger. It's faster, it's more efficient. Right now I'm just cutting some dark stuff off. Now I get on the back side of this. Her legs caught up. Now I get on the back side of this and I kind of...
You're like, oh, I don't want that nasty stuff. So I cut my knife down here, line it up where I want it, so I'm getting the line up where I want it. And I drive it down, and then I bring it all the way down to that femur
bone. And I ride up the femur bone. I'll come to the back of the knee and start coming up towards that tendon. I grab onto the meat so it don't fall, and I get a nice chunk of meat off that way too. Now I have made steaks out of those before. Again, not professional, but excuse me, pretty good. And then I check my handiwork. You know, I cut some of this fat off near her butt. Oh wow, that's a lot of fat. I mean, it's like inches thick, man. So anyway, then I'm like, oh, okay, there's still some meat there. So I kind of dig down deep, cut the meat out. Well, there's a little more there. All right, I cut it out. And I just take as much as I can. Got the meat off the deer. Now we're at the point where we need to get the nasty stuff off the meat. So I just go through all the meat at this point, and any of this white stuff you got here, I just trim it off. There's nothing special about that. Slap it on my cutting board here, go to town. I usually have a few knives available to do that. I like a fillet knife for getting under the white stuff. I do have some super sharp knives, like I said, the interchangeable blade ones. The brand of these interchangeable ones, I don't know, what's that say? Froxy? I don't know. I think you can get them on Amazon. The only thing that stinks about them is they don't sell the replacement blades. You have to buy a whole new knife, and it comes with a lot of replacement blades, which is okay. I have 2 now. So I'm gonna go through, do all that. Once I get all the white stuff off, I have a Cabela's 1/2 horsepower meat grinder that I use, and I just make sure my meat is cut up small enough to fit down the 2-inch portal that goes down to the grinder, and I grind up my meat. That's it. Well, here's the grinder. Cabela's purchase. It's trimmed pretty good, and it's not gonna require a whole lot of, I guess I would say, it's not gonna require going through twice. It's gonna be good. We've only done it once for as long as I've done it. Running it through the grinder once, and it's great. So I'm gonna get started, then we'll bag it up in the end. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and open a ton of bags. It's easier to have a ton of Ziploc bags open. That way you're not opening each bag in between each load. And it keeps the outside of the bags a little bit cleaner. So I'm gonna open some bags first. All right, show you how I do the venison first. I just take the venison. I used to try and put it in there nicely, but I put about how much I think might be like a decent serving size. Not just for me, but for my family. Once I get it sealed a little bit, I just kind of super press down hard and seal at the same time. Then I smush it flat. And then that way these bags will stack nice and flat. So I'll do that with all my back straps. With the burger, kind of similar thing. I just grab a handful, get it in the bag, shake it down in there, trying not to get it all. Take another handful, shake it down in the bag. And I usually figure about 2 handfuls is a pound. Some I make a little bigger, some I make a little smaller. But I'm a little short on bags right now, so I'm gonna make all my bags a little bigger. And then same thing, I go through, and as I'm like pushing down, I'm sealing at the same time. It gets the air out, mush it flat, and all my bags will stack. Once they're frozen, they can go like that in the freezer. So that's it.